Hello, this is Miss Samuels. Today we are going to multiply fractions by whole numbers. Miss Samuels is baking cookies. Each recipe makes 6 cookies. She needs to triple the recipe to make 18 cookies. So here we have our ingredients: sugar, flour, butter, and chocolate chips. And for one recipe, there's 3/4 a cup of sugar, 1/2 a cup of flour, 1/3 a cup of butter, 2/3 a cup of chocolate chips. If I want to triple this recipe, that means I need 3 groups of each amount. So I would need 3/4 from one recipe, 3/4 from another recipe, 3/4 from my third recipe, and I end up with 9/4. But there must be an easier way. Well, anytime we repeatedly add a number, isn't that the same as multiplication? Can't I just multiply 3 times 3/4 to give us an answer? You can, and that's what we're going to learn how to do today. One group of 1/4 is shown right here, where I have a square split into 4 pieces, and I have one of those 4 pieces shaded. That word group of, or that phrase group of, means multiplication. So one group of 1/4 is the same as 1/4. If I have 2 groups of 1/4, that's 2 times 1/4. I see 1/4 here, 1/4 here, and that equals 2/4. 3 groups of 1/4 would be 3 times 1/4, which equals 3/4. 4 groups of 1/4 equals 4/4, which is the same as 1. Notice our denominator is staying the same because we are talking about the same sized piece. We're still talking about fourths, but the number or amount of fourths is increasing. Have you noticed any other patterns? Let's keep looking. So one group of 1/4 means we have just 1/4. 2 groups of 1/4 means you have 2/4. These 2 1/4 could be together on one fraction strip. So let's look even deeper. If I asked, what is 5 times 2/3? 5 times 2/3 means 5 groups of 2/3. So notice I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 total groups, and each has 2/3 shaded. So 2 of those 3, 2 of those 3, and on. 10 parts, or 10/3, are shaded. So the product is 10/3, or 3 1/3. If we were to make this a simplified fraction, by moving over our thirds, we'll end up with 3 wholes and 1/3. If we multiply 5 times 2/3, what ends up happening is we multiply our whole number by our numerator, and we keep our denominator the same. We're still talking about thirds, which is why that denominator stays the same. Then we can divide. Fractions are division. We can ask ourselves, 3 goes into 10, how many times without going over? Well, 3 goes into 10 3 times, because 3 times 3 is 9, and we would need one more piece to make it 10. Let's figure out what equation is shown below. Each square in the model below represents one whole. Write a number model to show what the shaded parts equal. We have 3 groups, and each is 3/4. So 3 times 3/4 gives us a total of 9/4. 3 times 3 is 9. Keep your denominator the same. Fractions are division. We can set up long division on the side. 4 goes into 9 2 times. 2 times 4 is 8. We end up with a remainder of 1, which is the same thing as saying 2 and 1/4. So 9/4 is equivalent or equal to 2 and 1/4. 9/4 is an appropriate answer. It's just written as an improper fraction. Let's try these. So take your whole number, multiply it by the numerator, keep your denominator the same. 2 times 1 is 2, keep the denominator the same. Simplify it if you can. 2 halves equals 1. 2 times 1 is 2, keep your denominator the same. This fraction is already in its simplest form. 2 times 1 is 2, keep your denominator the same. 2/4 is equivalent to 1/2. But again, 2/4 would be an appropriate answer. 3 times 1 is 3. Keep your denominator the same. 2 goes into 3 one time with 1 piece left over, so 3/2 equals 1.5. 3 times 1 is 3. Keep your denominator the same. 3/3 equals 1. 3 times 1 is 3. Keep your denominator the same. So you're taking your whole number, you are multiplying it by the numerator and keeping your denominator the same. 2 times 4 is 8. Keep your denominator the same. 8/5. 5 goes into 8 one time, and we end up with 3 left over. 2 times 2 is 4. Keep your denominator the same. Again, this is improper. We end up 4/3 equals 1 1/3. 2 times 3 is 6. Keep your denominator the same. 4 goes into 6 one time with 2 left over. 1 2/4 is also equivalent to 1.5. Again, whole number times numerator, keep your denominator the same. Few more to try. 3 times 1 is 3. Keep your denominator the same. 3/2 is the same as 1.5. 4 times 2 is 8. Keep your denominator the same. 3 goes into 8 two times because 3 times 2 is 6, and you'd have 2 left over. And this was similar to the page before, where your answer equals 1.5. So in my cookie recipe, when I was making 6 cookies and I wanted to triple it to make 18 cookies, if I wanted to figure out how much sugar I needed, I could either add 3/4 plus 3/4 plus 3/4. And that would give me 9/4. 4 goes into 9 two times with 1/4 left over. Or instead of doing addition, we can multiply. 3 times 3/4 equals 9/4, which equals 2 1/4. We will dive into converting between improper fractions into whole numbers in a later lesson. The most important part is figuring out that you are doing the whole number multiplied by the numerator, 3 times 3, and keeping your denominator the same because you are talking about the same sized piece.